Welcome back, everybody, to the Rykeen channel and to another bonus lore drop for the Lag and Lore podcast. If you missed episode 1, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. We laid the groundwork for the entire Warcraft universe. We talked about the clash of the light and the void, the awakening of the Titans, and the terrifying reign of the Black Empire right here on Azeroth. But today, we are shifting gears. While Rykeen, Josh, and Kevin are out there bleeding through Mythic plus keys and pushing progression with the Plated Nightowls, we are going to look at the greatest betrayal in the history of the Warcraft cosmos. Today, we are talking about the fall of the Pantheon's greatest champion. We're talking about Sargeras, the psychological breaking of a god, the shattering of the prison world Mardum, and the birth of the Burning Legion. So, grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Brief pause: the nature of the enemy. To truly understand why Sargeras became the ultimate villain of Warcraft for over a decade, all the way up through the end of the Legion expansion, you have to understand who he was at the very beginning, and exactly what he was fighting. Last episode, we talked about how the physical universe, the Great Dark Beyond, was formed by the violent collision of light and void. But that collision also created a parallel, astral dimension known as the Twisting Nether. If the Great Dark Beyond is a place of planets, stars, and physical laws, the Twisting Nether is the exact opposite. It is an ocean of chaotic magic, raw fell energies, and absolute madness. And from that chaos, life emerged. But not life as we know it. The Twisting Nether birthed demons. These weren't just mindless beasts. They were highly lethal, incredibly diverse races born of fell magic, and they existed for one singular purpose: to destroy order. As the Titans of the Pantheon traveled from world to world, organizing the elements and nurturing life, these demons would bleed into the physical universe and tear it all down. The Pantheon realized they couldn't build a universe if they were constantly looking over their shoulders. They needed a protector. They needed a warrior. And so, they called upon their greatest fighter, Sargeras. Sargeras was absolute perfection. Imagine a titan forged of living bronze, radiating a blinding, noble light, wielding a massive greatsword named Gorshalak, the Dark Render. He was the universe's ultimate paladin. He was fearless, completely incorruptible, and utterly devoted to the Pantheon's vision of a structured, peaceful cosmos. For thousands upon thousands of years, Sargeras hunted the demons. And I want to emphasize the scale here. This wasn't a quick campaign. This was an eternal, grinding crusade across the infinite void of space. He fought the Annihilan, the massive, monstrous centaur-like beings we know today as Pit Lords, like Manoroth and Megtheridon. He fought the Morg, the brilliant but sadistic engineers of the Nether. He fought the Erdruin, the towering Doomguards who reveled in martial combat. But as the millennia dragged on, Sargeras realized he was facing an impossible problem. He was fighting a war of attrition that he fundamentally could not win. You see, demons are intrinsically tied to the Twisting Nether. If Sargeras tracked down a Pit Lord on a physical planet and chopped its head off, the demon's physical body would die, but its chaotic soul would simply be violently pulled back into the Twisting Nether. There, it would slowly regenerate over time, form a new body, and eventually return to the physical universe to start destroying things all over again. Sargeras was essentially trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. The Prison of Mardum. Sargeras was a being of order, and the sheer inefficiency of this endless war began to weigh heavily on his mind. He needed a permanent solution. If he couldn't kill the demons permanently in the physical universe, he had to contain them. So, he tapped into his immense cosmic power and carved out a pocket dimension within the Twisting Nether itself. He called this place Mardum, the Plane of Banishment. From that day forward, the rules of engagement changed. When Sargeras defeated a demonic army, he didn't just strike them down. He bound their souls and hurled them into this inescapable prison world. Over countless ages, Mardum became bloated. Billions upon billions of furious, screaming demons were packed into this pocket dimension. The sheer concentration of their fell magic caused Mardum to glow like a blistering, toxic green star on the edge of the Nether. But the creation of Mardum gave Sargeras a brief moment of peace. The demonic incursions slowed down. The universe seemed safe. The Pantheon was thrilled. To help him patrol the now quiet cosmos, the Pantheon even assigned Sargeras a lieutenant, a younger, incredibly powerful Titan warrior named Agramar. The two of them split up to cover more ground, confident that the worst of the universe's threats were locked safely away in Mardum. But Sargeras was about to discover that the demons were never the real threat. They were just a distraction. Take a sip of coffee/brief pause, the horrifying truth. While Sargeras was off patrolling a distant, uncharted sector of the great dark beyond, he stumbled upon a world that made his blood run cold. It was a black, desolate planet. But it wasn't dead. It was radiating an energy that Sargeras had never encountered before. It wasn't the chaotic fell magic of the demons, and it wasn't the ordered arcane magic of the Titans. It was cold. It was vampiric. It was the void. When Sargeras descended onto the surface of this planet, he found massive, fleshy horrors deeply entrenched in the world's crust, the old gods. But they weren't alone. Basking in the dark energy of the old gods was a conclave of Nathrism. You might know them better as the Dreadlords. The Dreadlords are the manipulators and spies of the demonic races. They feed on psychic energy and thrive on corruption. Sargeras immediately attacked, easily overwhelming the Dreadlords. He captured them and ruthlessly interrogated them, demanding to know what they were doing worshipping these fleshy parasites. And what the Dreadlords told him broke him. They laughed in the Titan's face. They told Sargeras that the Pantheon's mission was a joke. They revealed the existence of the Void Lords, beings of pure shadow that dwelled outside reality, entities so powerful and so malevolent that even the Titans could not comprehend them. The Dreadlords explained that the Void Lords couldn't manifest in the physical universe, so they had blindly hurled the old gods through space like infectious spores. Their goal? To crash into a planet that housed a slumbering world soul. Sargeras listened in horror as the Dreadlords explained the endgame. If the old gods successfully corrupted a sleeping Titan, that Titan would not wake up as a champion of order. It would wake up as a dark Titan. An entity of unspeakable, boundless power driven only by the ravenous hunger of the void. A dark Titan would consume all matter, all light, and all magic in the universe, twisting existence into a realm of eternal, agonizing torment. Sargeras didn't want to believe it. He demanded proof. The Dreadlords simply pointed down. Sargeras extended his cosmic senses deep into the core of the black planet he was standing on. And there, beneath the crust, beneath the writhing tentacles of the old gods, he felt it. A world soul. It was asleep, but its dreams were nightmares. The void energy had completely saturated the infant Titan spirit. The corruption was absolute. The world soul was already too far gone. The cleaving of the planet. Put yourself in Sargeras' shoes for a second. For eons, you have been the flawless defender of life. Your entire purpose is to protect these infant world souls so they can join the Pantheon. But as Sargeras looked at this infected planet, a terrifying, cold logic took over his mind. If this dark Titan woke up, the universe was doomed. Every world the Pantheon had built, every life form they had nurtured, would be subjected to endless torture. He had to make a choice. And he made it in a fraction of a second. Sargeras drew his massive greatsword, Gorshalak. He raised it high above his head, channeling every ounce of his cosmic, arcane might. With a roar of pure anguish, Sargeras brought the blade down and cleaved the entire planet completely in half. The explosion was apocalyptic. The physical shockwave shattered the planet, instantly vaporizing the old gods and the Dreadlords. But more importantly, the blade pierced the core. Sargeras killed the slumbering world soul. It was a mercy killing. But the psychic backlash of murdering one of his own kind tore at Sargeras' soul. He had done the unthinkable. He had destroyed the very thing he was sworn to protect. The great schism. Desperate and traumatized, Sargeras immediately traveled back to the Pantheon to tell them what he had discovered. He needed them to understand. He needed them to realize that the universe was under a threat far greater than a few chaotic demons. He stood before Amonthul, Eonar, Khazgaroth, and his own lieutenant, Agramar, and he told them everything. He told them about the Void Lords. He told them about the old gods. And he confessed to cleaving the corrupted planet in two. The reaction was immediate, and it was devastating. The Pantheon didn't praise him for his quick thinking. They were utterly horrified. Eonar the Lifebinder wept for the dead world soul. She furiously rebuked Sargeras, demanding to know how he could so callously murder an infant titan. Amonthal, the Highfather, argued that they could have quarantined the planet. They could have found a way to magically purge the void corruption and save their sibling. Agramar, the warrior who had idolized Sargeras, stared at his mentor in disbelief, completely alienated by the sheer brutality of the act. Sargeras pleaded with them. He tried to explain that the void corruption was too deep, that a dark titan was a threat they could not risk. But as he looked at the faces of the Pantheon, a dark realization washed over him. They were naive. They hadn't been out there in the trenches. They hadn't seen the horrors of the Twisting Nether or felt the absolute, icy malevolence of the void. They were clinging to the hope of a perfect universe, totally unwilling to make the hard, brutal choices required to actually save it. The argument raged on, but the divide was too great. In Sargeras' mind, the equation was simple. The Void Lords want to corrupt the universe. The only way to stop them is to ensure there is nothing left to corrupt. A lifeless, burning universe is better than a void-corrupted universe. Because if the universe is dead, the Void Lords starve. And maybe, just maybe, in the ashes of a burned cosmos, life could eventually start over, free from the shadow of the void. Unable to convince his peers, Sargeras turned his back on the Pantheon. He walked away from his family, his purpose, and the order he had spent an eternity building. The defender of creation had officially decided to become its destroyer. The Shattering of Mardum and the birth of the Legion to burn down an entire infinite universe. Sargeras couldn't do it alone. He needed an army. An army that didn't care about order. An army that thrived on destruction. He knew exactly where to find one. Sargeras traveled back to the edge of the Twisting Nether, standing before the glowing, toxic prison world he had built, Mardum. Inside were billions of the most vicious, destructive demons in existence, the very monsters he had spent eons locking away. He didn't hesitate. Sargeras raised his blade one final time and smashed it into the prison dimension, shattering Mardum wide open. The resulting explosion of concentrated fell magic was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The sheer volume of toxic, volatile energy erupted outward and physically engulfed Sargeras. The pure, arcane bronze of his skin cracked and split. Violent fell fire erupted from his eyes, his mouth, and the fissures in his body. His noble, orderly titan form was violently mutated into a burning, demonic monstrosity. The corruption was so intense that his greatsword, Gorshalak, couldn't handle the conflicting energies and shattered in his hands. Sargeras claimed the largest jagged shard, a weapon that would become known as Gorable, the Dark Squall. As the fell fire settled, the fallen titan stood before the billions of freed demons. The Annihilan, the Erdruin, the Moarg, and the Nathrazim looked up at the being who had hunted them for eternity. Sargeras offered them a simple, terrifying choice: serve me, and you will have an entire universe to burn. Oppose me, and I will erase your souls from existence. The demons, recognizing a master of unparalleled power and cruelty, bowed before him. And just like that, the Burning Legion was born. Sargeras infused the demons with his titan blood, granting them immense power and binding them to his will. He organized their chaotic ranks into a devastating cosmic military force. Their mission was no longer random destruction. They had a unified, terrifying goal: the Burning Crusade. The systematic eradication of all life in the great dark beyond. Tying it back to midnight, when you really absorb this lore, it completely changes how you view the history of World of Warcraft. For years, we fought the Burning Legion. We fought them in Outland, we fought them on the Sunwell, and we took the fight directly to them in the Legion expansion. We always viewed Sargeras as the ultimate, pure evil bad guy. But the tragedy of Sargeras is that he was actually the universe's most extreme anti-hero. Every world he burned, every civilization he wiped out, was a desperate, scorched earth tactic to stop the Void Lords. He became the greatest monster in existence because he was terrified of the very thing we are fighting right now in Midnight. Sargeras knew eons ago that the Void was the true endgame threat. And now, with Sargeras imprisoned by the remaining Titans, there is no burning legion left to hold the void back. The path is clear. Xal'atath is picking up the pieces, moving the pieces on the board, and we are finally dealing with the cosmic horror that broke the Pantheon's greatest champion. Next week, we're going to look at the Burning Legion's very first major recruitment drive. Sargeras had his brute force, but he needed cunning commanders to lead his infinite army. We're going to talk about the planet Argus, the brilliant Eridar race, and the tragic betrayal of Kil'jaeden and Archimonde that forced Prophet Velen to flee into the stars. Until then, thank you guys so much for hanging out and geeking out over the lore with me. Drop a comment below if you have any questions about Sargeras, the Dreadlords, or the Pantheon. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep your frames high and your temps low. This is Andy, and I'll catch you in the next one.